out. And I'm going to start letting in the waiting room. No, I'm not. There we go. All right, Chris, give it just a couple seconds. Let's empty that waiting room and you can get started.
I'll wait till 1 on the dot. Welcome everyone. My name is Chris Hendricks. Welcome to the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities Self-Advocate Discussion Series. I'm the Policy Education Coordinator for the Council, and on behalf of the Council, thank you so much for being here. This discussion series is a place for North Carolina's self-advocates to gather and engage with each other, to talk about things that affect our lives as people experiencing life with IDD and other disabilities. We want this time together to be used to know each other and to get to know the Council, where I and other individuals with IDD are leaders, colleagues, and valued for our input because we are who we are. People with disabilities should always be valued like that, and this discussion series demonstrates why and how. Here are some quick guidelines for our discussion before we begin. This is known as our housekeeping section. To maintain community and eliminate distraction is the primary focus. We need to use direct chat feature for side conversations, please. So that means going to the participant list and selecting the person you directly want to chat with if you want to have a side conversation. Please don't put lengthy resource information in the chat to everyone. We send a post-session email with all of the day's resources, so don't worry about that too much. And if resource information is longer than an email address or a website address, send a chat to myself, Chris Hendricks, or my colleague, Melissa Schwartz. Okay, I think many of you probably know what we're going to talk about today, but just in case you don't, this month we're celebrating the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA. We'll talk about what the ADA is and aims to do, and I'll share a couple of key events around the disability rights movement and beyond. Our self-advocate guest speaker today is one of my favorite humans on the planet. His name is Philip Woodward, and he'll offer information about the ADA and the road ahead for disability rights. Also, we're spotlighting the ADA National Network and how its mission can support you with information, guidance, and training. Last but never least, as always, we want to hear from you, the self-advocates. We want to know your thoughts on disability rights today. We want to hear your ADA stories, the good, the bad, and everything in between. However, to begin with, we can't have a guest like Philip Woodward, the joke king, without starting things off with our classic joke of the day. Philip, take it away, sir.
Good afternoon, this is Philip Woodward here. I'm a Caucasian male wearing a purple and green polo shirt, and I'm bald like Michael Jordan. Here is the first joke of the day. Question is, how do you organize a space party? Any guesses?
This is Chris.
I
Joshua
see
says,
somebody said to go out of this world. Sean said launch a rocket into orbit. Those are excellent guesses. The answer is you planet. Get it? Planet. Great guesses, Joshua and Sean. Here's the second joke of the day. Why was the math book so disorganized? Antoinette said it had too many problems. Bingo, Antoinette, because it had a lot of problems. Great job. You all are excellent guessers today. Way to go. I will turn it, now that we've had that laugh, I'll hand things back to Chris to talk about the signing of the ADA and what it means to have accommodations under the ADA's protection.
Thanks, Philip. As you can see in this picture, President George H.W. Bush signs the Americans with Disabilities Act into law on July 26, 1990, as Reverend Harold Wilk, standing on the left, Evan Kemp, seated on the left, Justin Dart, seated on the right, and Swift Perino, standing on the right, watch. If you were here for our last ADA discussion last year, we talked a little bit about Justin Dart and how interesting he is. 35 years ago, and only 9 days from now, this very month, the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law. That's 10 days from now, actually. Sorry, July 26th, 1990. The ADA is a civil rights law that prevents discrimination based on disability. The ADA protects people with disabilities from discrimination in all aspects of employment for employers with 15 or more employees, in access to public programs and services such as transportation and in access to public places like businesses, restaurants, stores, hotels, places of entertainment, and other service establishments. And as of 2024, protections around communications, including web accessibility and technology adaptation. We'll get into more of that a little bit later. Next, there are 5 titles of the ADA: employment, public services, that includes state and local government, public accommodations and commercial facilities, telecommunications, and miscellaneous provisions. To go a little deeper into the ADA, which has a unique style of defining things, I invite our NCCDD expert, a certified ADA coordinator, to help with a few things. You know him well, Philip Woodward. Welcome again, Philip. First, can you tell us what is an ADA coordinator?
Yes, Chris, this is Philip Woodward here. An ADA coordinator is a responsible employee at a public entity with 50 or more employees. This person coordinates efforts to comply with the ADA. However, there is also a certified ADA coordinator, and that is a person who has completed the requirements of the ADA training certification program that the University of Missouri and the Great Plains ADA Center developed. The program provides high-quality training and a deep knowledge base of the ADA.
Thanks for that information, Philip. So, what exactly is the definition of disability specifically under the ADA?
Well, first, it is important to remember, and this is Philip here, that in the context of the ADA, disability is a legal term rather than a medical one. Because it has a legal definition, The ADA's definition of disability is different from how disability is defined under some other laws. So the ADA defines a person with a disability as a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities.
Now that we have the definition, Philip, this is Chris. Can you tell us what exactly is a reasonable accommodation under the ADA?
Yes, this is Philip. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, the term accommodation, as it applies to people with disabilities, is specifically used in connection with employment. Under Title I of the Americans with Disabilities Act, a reasonable accommodation is a modification or adjustment to the job, the work environment, or the way things are usually done during the hiring process. These modifications enable an individual with a disability to have an equal opportunity not only to get a job, but to successfully perform their job task to the same extent as people without disabilities.
And in that context, Philip, this is Chris, what would be an example of undue hardship?
This is Philip. An undue hardship is, quote, an action requiring significant difficulty or expense, unquote. Whether an accommodation is considered an undue hardship is determined on a case-by-case basis. While employers are asked to come up with alternative accommodations, these accommodations can have their limits. Usually an employer or a public entity cannot pass the cost of an accommodation on to a person with a disability unless it is an undue hardship. Then people with disability can sometimes be asked to help cover the cost of the accommodations that they need.
Thank you so much, Philip, for all of this information. This is Chris. I'll bring you back in a few minutes to share what you came to share. But first, I want to offer some examples of accommodation related to various conditions, including the following, such as physical challenges, installing a ramp or modifying a restroom, or modifying the layout of a workplace. Accessible and assistive technologies, like ensuring computer software is accessible, providing screen reader software, or using video phones to facilitate communication with colleagues who are deaf. Accessible communications, providing sign language interpreters or closed captioning at meetings such as this one and events, and making materials available in Braille or large print for those who need it. You even have what are known as policy enhancements, like modifying a policy to allow a service animal in a business setting that normally would not allow any animal in the workplace or in the place of business, or adjusting work schedules so employees with chronic medical conditions can go to medical appointments and complete their work at alternative times or locations. Before we move on, let's all take a moment to think of the following questions. What does accommodation mean to you specifically, regardless of the legal definition? What does accommodation mean to you? And what accommodations have you asked for or had to fight for as self-advocates? I'll give you all a moment to think. And as you're thinking about that, feel free to share your answers in the chat, or raise your hand and share your thoughts. Raise your digital Zoom hand or your physical hand. I'll share my self-advocate perspective. This is Chris. An accommodation to me is anything that makes the way that I move through life easier on me as it relates directly to my condition or disability.
This is Melissa. Philip, would you read what you just put in the chat?
This is Philip here. I just shared an accommodation in the chat that I use for virtual meetings, and that is Relay Conference captioning. That's the service providing the captions that you see today if you're using them. I see that somebody else here besides me is using the captions. I also use American Sign Language interpreters. And we have two here today, so we're providing multiple accommodations to help everybody be able to participate today. Thank you, Melissa.
Philip, this is Chris. Thank you for sharing that. In addition, Joshua Alley in the chat says an accommodation is an adjustment, i.e. audio recording classes, preferential seating, assistive technology that helps people complete tasks at the same level of participation as non-disabled participants. I love that definition. Well, keep thinking on that. We're going to go back to our participants and our audience members in a moment. And now that a few of us have shared our thoughts, let's take a moment to review some key moments in the history of disability rights. By now, we know that the Americans with Disabilities Act is a monumental civil rights law aimed at prohibiting discrimination against individuals with disabilities. However, its evolution involves a series of pivotal events and movements that have significantly shaped disability rights in the United States. Let's begin with the 504 sit-in of 1977. The 504 sit-in was a protest led by disability rights activists demanding the implementation of Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which was the first federal civil rights protection for people with disabilities. Activists occupied federal buildings, most notably the San Francisco Federal Building, for 28 days, resulting in the successful signing of the regulations to enforce Section 504 by Joseph Califano, the then Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare. If you haven't heard of this next one, check out some really powerful images online, as well as in the PowerPoint, the Capitol Crawl and ADA signing. The Capitol Crawl took place on March 12, 1990, where disability rights activists, including children, crawled up the steps of the U.S. Capitol to demonstrate the barriers faced by people with disabilities. This powerful protest directly influenced the passage of the ADA, which was signed into law by President George H.W. Bush on July 26, 1990. The Olmsted decision of 1999, the Olmsted versus L.C. decision, or Lewis Curtis, by the U.S. Supreme Court held that unjustified segregation of people with disabilities is a form of discrimination under the ADA. It is mandated that individuals with disabilities have the right to live in the community rather than being institutionalized if they can be accommodated in a less restrictive setting. Next, the Free Our People March of 2003. The Free Our People March, organized by ADAPT, ADAPT, saw activists march from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. The march aimed to advocate for the end of institutionalization and the expansion of community-based services and support for people with disabilities. Next, we have the ADA Legacy Tour in 2015. The ADA Legacy Tour was part of the 25th anniversary celebration of the ADA. It involved a tour bus across the United States with exhibits, events, and educational activities to honor the history of the ADA and promote its continued relevance and importance. These events collectively highlight the relentless efforts of disability rights activists and their impact on shaping policies that societal attitudes towards people with disabilities. Now it is my pleasure to formally introduce our self-advocate special guest speaker for today, Mr. Philip Woodward. And Philip, if I miss anything, I'm sure you'll let me know. But Philip Woodward works as a systems change manager for the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities. He is the staff liaison to the Community Living Committee and has led several initiatives for the council, including Project Search, Upward to Financial Stability, and the NCCDD Network Grassroots Initiative. Philip joins us today because he is also, as you may recall, a certified ADA coordinator. Philip has a strong background in advocating for people with disabilities, having previously worked as an access specialist for the North Carolina Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services, now known as the EIPD. He is fluent in American Sign Language, which enhances his ability to connect with and support the disability community. Philip holds a bachelor's degree in English and a law degree from the College of William and Mary. His commitment to disability rights is further reflected in his service on the boards of Arts Access and the Raleigh Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disabilities. Please give a warm self-advocate welcome to our friend, Mr. Philip Woodward. Go ahead, sir.
Chris, thank you very much for that introduction. This is Philip Woodward here. I appreciate that. I'm going to add on something that the previous PowerPoint slide said. Other initiatives that I have managed here at the council include rethinking guardianship and emergency preparedness. So those are topic areas I'm very interested in. But I'm here to talk a little bit about the ADA. The Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law 35 years ago. What a momentous occasion to celebrate. I do want to say that this year has seen the erosion of individual rights for people with disabilities and funding cuts that could make it difficult for some agencies and organizations to provide reasonable accommodation for people with disabilities. So talking about the ADA and its importance will continue to be very important. I'm glad we're doing that today. So, equal access, what does that mean? When providing equal access to people with disabilities, some things are more obvious and some things are less obvious. For example, most people might understand that a person using a wheelchair needs an accessible entrance and access to an elevator to get to another floor of a building. Or they might understand that a deaf person needs an American Sign Language interpreter. But they might not understand that it is not a best practice to provide only one ASL interpreter for a 4-hour meeting. The best practice is to provide multiple interpreters that can relieve each other and help each other out. And I have a picture in this PowerPoint that helps illustrate equal access. The picture shows, oh wait, go back to the previous slide, please. The picture shows a sign language interpreter signing into the hands of a deaf-blind person. So if you provide a sign language interpreter for a deaf-blind person at a meeting, but you have the interpreter stand up on the stage where the deaf-blind person can't see the interpreter, that might not be equal access. But the deaf-blind interpreter might be able to use tactile sign language and sign into the deaf-blind person's hands. So that's an example of an effective accommodation providing effective equal access. Another example would be some people who are employers might not realize that a person using ADA paratransit might not be able to show up for work at 5 o'clock in the morning when the ADA paratransit system in many big cities starts running. They might not be able to get to work until 5:30 or 6 o'clock or later. Next slide, please. The slide says we need more ADA awareness and education today. And the picture shows a FedEx truck blocking an accessible parking space in front of our building where the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities office is located. Chris Hendricks typically uses that parking space, but if he were to drive into this picture right now, he wouldn't be able to get to the space. So I want to tell you all that when I see UPS trucks, FedEx trucks, and the mail truck park in the accessible parking spaces in front of our building, I know that we need more education in our society today, 35 years after the ADA was signed. And with that, I will turn it back to Chris and hopes he has no trouble finding a parking space.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us, Philip. Does anyone have any questions for Philip before I continue and we continue with our poll?
You have one comment in the chat box from Jonathan Ellis.
Thanks, Jonathan. I can see that. Accommodations. Jonathan says, accommodations let me work part-time for North Carolina and Virginia Easter Seals UCP from 2003 to 2011. And welcome, Jonathan. Good to see you. Just one more moment for any Philip questions.
This is Philip here. I received a question through a direct chat message. And the question is, what can we do to stop the deletion of individual rights and funding cuts against accommodation providing organizations? Also, sometimes employees must cover the cost of accommodations. Why? What can we do to make them free? So this is my response here. Um, Philip here is saying that the most important thing we can do is educate everybody in society around us. That includes legislators, it includes government leaders, it includes employers, and it includes our family and friends and the people we interact with in grocery stores and coffee shops. If they understand what we need as a person with a disability, then they will understand why we need an accommodation and how they might be able to provide that accommodation for us. And with that understanding can often come appreciation where they appreciate the things that we as people with disabilities have to contribute to the workplace or to their business, either as an employee or as a customer. And that understanding will hopefully help them be able to find creative ways to accommodate us without passing the cost on to us. So that's my initial answer to that question, Josh. I hope that helps.
Philip, this is Chris. Well said. There's a reason why you are indeed the ADA coordinator. In a moment, we will give you all the opportunity to share your experiences and answer our questions. But first, we're going to move on to our poll because we want to know a little bit about you and what you think of this discussion series. You should be seeing a list of short questions. Each is multiple choice. Please answer each of these questions because it helps the council make sure that we're doing our job essentially and that the activities meet your needs. The poll questions and choices are as follows. First, I am a self-advocate, parent, family member, or neither. The next question, I live in a big city / urban area or a small town / rural area. Next, I think the self-advocate discussion series is good or bad. Next question, I learn from the self-advocate discussion series always, never, or usually. And E, or the next question, I use the Spanish language channel. Yay or nay? Thank you so much for taking a brief moment to input your answers. This input really does help us continue to improve the self-advocate discussion series. I'm no longer seeing the poll in front of me, so I assume that means everyone has had a chance to input their answers. So we'll go ahead and jump on to the audience questions. These are more important today than ever. So if you are brave enough to participate, I again say our time together is about connection and community. So if you're willing, if you haven't come off camera up to this point, I invite you to do so. You don't have to, but we encourage you to. Feel free to raise your hand if you're able, or raise a digital hand if that's easier. And again, you can also answer questions in the chat. Feel free to answer one or any of the 4 questions that I'm going to read out here presently. Number 1, what does the ADA mean to you? Question 2, share a story where the ADA has made a positive difference in your life. Question 3, what's something you couldn't do today without the help of the ADA? Question 4, what is an accessibility device that we have because of the ADA? Some great questions today. Any brave responders? Joshua, oh, Jonathan, you're on mute. You're unmuted, so it looks like you're trying to share an answer with us. Take your time.
What I was gonna put in the chat is access to public facilities for number 3. And number 4, let me see what the question was. Actually, Zoom has been a favorite accommodation of mine since 2020 once I figured out how to use it. So that's my answers.
Jonathan, this is Chris. Those are great answers. And let me tell you something. I am always blown away by the accommodations that we are given as individuals with IDD that wind up serving the greater community. And Philip, correct me if I'm wrong, but as an example, an elevator is an ADA accommodation, but disability or not, I think everyone here can appreciate an elevator in a tall building with lots and lots of stairs. Am I right?
This is Philip. Chris, you are absolutely correct. And I'm going to say that anybody could experience a disability at any time. So the ADA is intended to help people who have permanent disabilities, but it can also help people who have temporary disabilities, such as if you break your leg and you need to use a wheelchair or you need to use crutches, you're going to have a much easier time going in and out of the elevator than up and down the stairs using crutches. So that's an example of how an accommodation for people with disability can help everyone at any time. Thank you.
Well said, Philip. I want to just briefly mention, Joshua, I see your hand up and I promise I'm going to get to you. I just want to read very quickly. Sean Flagg in the chat says, I think the ADA means giving new opportunities for disabled citizens. And Antoinette says ADA ... breaking down barriers. Absolutely. And Yvonne Bell says AAC. Joshua, go right ahead. I see your hand still up.
The ADA means to me welcoming people regardless of ability to engage with society, businesses, and those around them. Everyone's a human being. We need to treat them as such. When has the ADA made a positive difference? I've received innovation waiver services, helping me succeed at home and in society. What is something I cannot do today without ADA assistance? Can you hear me? And then, yeah.
Yes.
What is something I cannot do today without ADA services engaging with my services? And an accessibility device we have because of the ADA using assistive technology.
Those are great answers.
So those 4. We need a more.
I have no, you've made a guy who talks too much is speechless, Joshua. You answered all 4 of our questions.
Thank you.
And came on camera.
Yes, thank you so much.
Very much. Chris, you missed one chat from Yocasta Bianconi. She says ADA allowed my daughter to get special education, housing, employment accommodations. I am ever so grateful for the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. Thank you all. Thank you, Yocasta, for sharing. Thank you all for sharing. Chris and Philip, I wrote in the chat to you directly, and it says, Philip or Chris, do you have examples of an accessibility device that we haven't talked about here today?
I'll let Philip go first, our certified ADA coordinator.
This is Philip here. Well, I want to say that our friend Yvonne Bell in the chat said AAC. Some people might not know what that acronym stands for, but I believe it stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. And so an example of that is a Dynavox machine, which is like a laptop computer that a person with cerebral palsy might put in their wheelchair, and it will speak out loud if that person has difficulty speaking or physically using their voice. So that's an example of technology that was created to accommodate people with disabilities. Another accommodation, well, that I've talked about captioning today, and I'm just reading the captions on my computer screen as I watch the interpreters. But when my family wants to go to the movies, I go to Regal Theaters and use caption glasses that are big glasses that I wear to look cool in front of the other people at the movie theater. But they also have captions on the lenses so I can follow along with all the dialogue in the movie so that I can enjoy going to the movie with my family instead of waiting for it to come out on Netflix later on. And that's one of my favorite accommodations that I use under the ADA today.
Philip, thank you for those examples of accommodations. I'll follow up with an accommodation, or I'll follow up with an accessibility tool or tools that I've used over the course of my life. A wheelchair, a cane, and a walker. I jump between all three of those devices, and I want to dive a little deeper into that. This was once a policy at amusement parks you all may be aware of that is no longer a policy that I really appreciated when I was younger. But when my mother took me to Disney, I tell this story every year, our ADA discussion. But when my mother took me to Disney when I was 7, it used to be that if you had a physical disability and were shown to not be able to wait in line, that you didn't have to wait in line. You could skip all of the lines and ride the rides as often as you wanted to and pick where you wanted to sit. Disney specifically used to have a policy where you could even, if you and your parents were by yourselves at the park and you wanted to make friends, you could pull in another family or another kid and have them join you, and then they could skip the line. And I'll tell you what, when I was 7 years old, I made a lot of friends at Disney World. And it's a shame they no longer offer that special accommodation because it did wonders for the way in which I view my condition. That was a very transformative experience for me in the sense that up to that point, I saw my my condition as a hardship, and after that moment, my time in Disney World completely flipped the script for me and showed me how my condition could be a powerful tool for change and connection. So I stand by that accessibility policy that used to exist before the Fast Pass and dream of a day when it comes back to us.
Why'd they stop it?
That's a great question. So they stopped that because of two reasons. One, the invention of the Fast Pass allowed for people to pay more money to get, well, to not have to wait in line for rides as soon as they realized they could charge the general public for it. The second reason it went away is that some families began hiring people with disabilities to pretend to be family members so that the families could skip the lines.
Oh,
Which, for the record, as far as I'm concerned, that's just awesome employment for persons with conditions that Disney did not account for. So,
well,
just
that's
my 2
awesome.
cents.
Very, very interesting. They shouldn't have stopped because of that.
I agree. I agree. But I'm the facilitator. I've already talked too much. So, anyone else want to jump in and share? Uh,
This is
Go ahead,
Paul
Phil.
Woodward here.
Melissa, do you have anything?
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Melissa, do you have anything?
Well, of course I do. I've been doing this for 35 years, but this is the self-advocate discussion series, and it is more appropriate for me to stay behind the scenes to support all of the wonderful facilitators and attendees that are here. Thank you, and thank you, Jonathan, for being here.
Not a problem.
This is Chris. Joshua said in the chat, aren't there building pass programs in which to receive boarding time and enjoy no line attractions at the park until the boarding time? Yes, and that's a wonderful accommodation. It's just not as cool as getting to skip the line immediately, in my opinion. Sean says it's a shame we don't have many disabled protagonists in Disney movies and TV shows. That is true, although there should be more, and there are a couple. I just read an article this morning about one, and of course, right when I want to tell you the name of it, it's Luca. Luca has a character with a disability, so if you haven't seen that one, check it out. Philip, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
This is Philip here. I just wanted to respond to Sean's comment that I see a lot more characters with disabilities on TV and in movies today than I did 10 or 20 years ago. And so I think things are moving in the right direction, and those TV shows and those movies can help all of us better understand disability. And if you see an accommodation in one of those shows, that might help you think in real life how you can accommodate somebody who has a disability, or how you can ask your employer for an accommodation that will help you be more successful and be more productive as an employee. So those TV shows and movies can help all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Philip. Yacasta, you have your hand up?
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone. Yes, I also wanted to mention in my daughter's case, some of the experience of it's been great to have ADA today. One of them, I remember when she was trying to take the driver's license test. First, the written part. I remember many years ago, she didn't think she could pass to do the written part because the limits on time. So under ADA, we applied for extended time. So she was able to pass the written part of the test, and then we could move over to the practical part. And she was able to get her driver's license because of that. The other one was, this is today, my daughter Vilavi, we got her a dog 2 years ago. And immediately she was able to apply for the emotional service dog status. And I don't know if it's still, one of the things that we have the pleasure to enjoy because of ADA, but I wanted to mention that. She really, we actually been seeing the benefits of her, in her since she got her dog. And anyway, so it was very easy. The process was very easy, just applying under her ADA status. And today she's, goes around, is able to go around, travel with her dog, service dog, everywhere she goes. So it's been a beautiful experience for me just to see that.
Those stories are wonderful, Yocasta. Thank you. Philip, go ahead. You have a follow-up?
This is Philip. I want to follow up on what you just said, Jocasta. Thank you very much for sharing your daughter's experience at the DMV. And that is an excellent example of why it is important for every agency to have an ADA coordinator. So maybe your daughter would come to the DMV and ask for an accommodation, and the employees don't know what to do. But if they have an ADA coordinator who trains all of the employees at the DMV well, then they will know what to do and how to provide an accommodation if somebody with a disability comes into the DMV and asks for an accommodation. So that your story shows the importance of the ADA coordinator's role and training all employees to understand the ADA. Thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you, Philip. We've had a lot of shares, but we've got time for one or two more. If any other brave self-advocates want to raise their hand or share in the chat. Melissa, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Are there any hands raised that I'm not seeing?
Nope, you are good to move on.
Okay. Well, those are some really powerful shares today, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to get so personal and so honest. Next, we're going to talk about some resources. All these resources have to do, of course, with all things ADA. So first and foremost, the ADA National Network provides information, guidance, and training on how to implement the Americans with Disabilities Act in order to support the mission of the ADA to assure equality of opportunity, full participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency for individuals with disabilities. The network consists of 10 regional ADA centers located throughout the United States and an ADA Knowledge Transition Center, or ADA-KTC. North Carolina is part of Region 4, known as the Southeast ADA Center. And then, let's see, did I go over all of those? There's a link to some ADA 35th anniversary events and activities and more. There is a couple celebrations for the ADA over the course of the month, and we have posted some of those opportunities in our calendar on the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities website. Some of those opportunities include the Disability Pride celebration on the 19th. Raleigh is doing one. And then on the 25th, there's a celebration in Winston-Salem at the Ramcat. Those are just two off the top of my head, but there's a lot of ADA celebrations going on over the course of this whole month. And then we just want to let you know that right now we're focusing on our 5-year state plan. And so we would love it if you would take the time to fill out our 5-year state plan survey. Again, we're going to send out this PowerPoint and links as part of our resources email following our gathering today. Joshua, I see you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
We do not see a hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw your hand up and then it went away and then you started talking, but you were muted and now you're unmuted. Did you have
Okay. So yep, I just asked about the in-person events, but I got that answered. I just hope that we can increase accessibility and disability rights. I really want us to come up with ways to do that.
I couldn't have
This
said it
isn't
better
over.
myself.
This isn't over.
That's right. This is not over. I'm gonna make a t-shirt out of that. Philip Woodward has shared in the chat, Disability in North Carolina will host an ADA celebration at Biogen in Research Triangle Park on Thursday, July 24th from 3 to 6 p.m. And I'll be there. I will be there as well, Philip. So feel free to join us.
Did you already talk about the state plan, Chris?
I did.
I'm sorry.
No
Here you
problem. The council presents every fourth Thursday of the month on Zoom at 1 p.m. Feel free to join us for those presentations. It's going to be a different discussion each time. And again, feel free to check out the calendar on the NCCDD website. Well, Melissa, I don't think this has ever happened, but we've come to the end of our presentation a little bit early. So before you go, you can see the governor's proclamation for the ADA on that last slide there, signed by Governor Josh Stein, if you want to take a look at that. And again, it'll be included in our resources email. I want to take a moment to thank everyone here today. Thank you so much to our Spanish interpreters. Thank you so much to our ASL experts, our ASL interpreters. Thank you so much to our captioner. Thank you so much to everyone who works so hard to make the magic work behind the scenes. Thank you to our certified ADA coordinator, co-facilitator, and king of the jokes co-worker, Mr. Philip Woodward. And above all, thank you all so much to the self-advocates who are willing to come on today and listen and share your experiences and share your honest thoughts about what we're all, what we've experienced in the past, what we're all going through right now. Just know, however it is that you are feeling, good, bad, and everything in between, that you are not feeling it alone, that we are here with you, we are there with you, and this is all about building community. So thank you so much to our total of 35 attendees today. We appreciate you so much, and we look forward to seeing you at the next self-advocate discussion series next month that is going to talk about assistive technology in August. So I'll be giving you that date in the resources email following our time today. Thank you all so much for coming. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Chris.
This is Philip Woodward here. We had 35 participants for the 35th anniversary. Hooray!
At 1:21 p.m., we had 36. But we will pretend it's 35 just because it's cooler to say. Definitely. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate your joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Really appreciate your joining us and staying so active.
I need to.
I know that's right. I know that's right. We do need you, and I look forward to being in touch with you very soon. I know you've heard about the council doing their 5-year state plan development, their next 5-year state plan development public input sessions, and we go across the state to do such a thing. So
Yes,
I am looking forward to coming to the New Bern area very soon, and I will well, number one, I want to encourage you to encourage others to make sure they look at our website to see all of the places that the council is going to do in-person public input sessions. And then
okay.
number two, I will be in touch with you so that if you're interested and available when we come to New Bern, being a part of that session and being a local face for advocacy in the Eastern space.
Of course. No
All
problem.
right. All right, well, I'm going to remove you from the room so the staff can do the rest of their work and close down, but I look forward to talking to you again later. Bye, Jonathan.
Bye.
Excellent. All right, it is time to turn off some recordings. So let's do some recording saving. Chris, if you'll grab the chat.
You got it. It's not. Oh, there we go. Save chat.
Okay, it's converting my recording because I kicked myself out of the room. I kicked myself out of the Spanish language room, but luckily we were already finished with that, so that's good. And then I need to save this recording. So stop recording. Yep, I want to stop recording to the cloud. Yes.